like you need Crisco to get this damn thing in the garage. Holy crap. While I flatten myself to walk around it. Jesus. Is the door closed? Just barely. Man, this thing is huge. Yeah, that's what she said. Okay. Folks, I no longer own a 2014 Hyundai Elantra GT with the sport wheel package and other bullshit options that aren't compatible with New England roads. This is my new vehicle. New used vehicle. Yes, I'm 35 and I needed to find a vehicle that screamed that age from the rooftops. I am 35, middle-aged, and I work in a boring office job. And therefore, I am the prime target market for a certified pre-owned Hyundai Santa Fe Sport. Wow, that's a big change from what I had. A very good one, actually. I was not planning on keeping the Elantra GT a day longer than I had to. And I actually wanted to get rid of it 2 years ago. I had it for 5 years total, by the way. 5 years I had that vehicle. And it was, believe me, it was reliable. It was, everything that I expected it to be. And then some, but it wasn't a vehicle that I really wanted. It was one of those situations. I bought the GT because I needed a car. I had a 2010 Elantra sedan that was just about out of warranty, and it was a model with known transmission problems, and I had already had 2 transmission replacements going on number 3. And I knew that Hyundai had screwed up that transmission, but they never really made it right by recalling them as they should have for the used car buyers. Poor used car buyers. Bought these cheap used 4-door Elantra sedans without knowing that the transmissions were all ticking time bombs. I think it was only the 2010 model year, but that's the one I had. But the reason I bought a second Hyundai, that being the 2014 GT, is because while the product that I had was really defective, I always got it fixed with a smile and a free rental. And one of those free rentals, by the way, was back in 2011 or 12. I think it was 11. Shortly out, 6 months after I bought the car, the 2010 Elantra. And I went in for my first transmission replacement, and then I said, well, sir, we don't have any rentals available, but here's a loaner. And they gave me the keys to a brand new 2012 Santa Fe. That vehicle, I absolutely fell in love with. I loved the ride. I loved the acceleration. I think it was a 2.4 liter Theta engine back then. I'm not sure which engine was in that one exactly, but it had all the bells and whistles, and it was a great vehicle to drive, and I really didn't want to give it back so that I could go back into my base model Elantra sedan. But I did, because I had to. Fast forward, I think I had that car 4 years. We're going back to, transmissions going again. So I went back to the Hyundai dealer, and I'm like, well, I really had my eye on something like an SUV, but I really don't have the budget for that right now. So I need a hatchback, or at least I need a hatchback. And I really like the style of the Elantra GT. So I bought myself a new 2014 Elantra GT, and I drove that car, believe it or not, for 5 years and 106,000 miles. And they were relatively trouble-free miles. And it goes to show that an automaker, they can screw up one car royally, but the next one, they get it right. And when they get it right, they get it right. That GT was about as reliable as any average Toyota. It rode and drove exactly as it did the day I drove it off the lot, the day I drove it in to trade it in. Now, I could have sold it outright, but I have had some bad experiences selling vehicles private party, and I'll never do it again. Well, with few exceptions. I've had bad luck. And I don't need some asshole chasing me down 5 years later because something broke and he's blaming it on me. I mean, it's a crazy world, you know? At least when I turn it into a dealer, they auction the thing off. My name doesn't really go along with the car, and I don't have to worry about something blowing up on it. That's just the nature of the beast. It's also a lot less hassle. But you take a huge hit when you trade a car in, especially one that's paid for. But I digress. So what led me to the Santa Fe Sport? Well, I wanted the Sport because it's a 2-row SUV, and I don't have any screaming kids, so I don't need a 3-row SUV. I just need something that I can haul building materials, plywood, cut down plywood. You're not going to fit a 4x8 sheet of plywood in this. I needed something a little bit bigger. The all-wheel drive thing isn't something that I'm too crazy about. I mean, it's great and all. I've had all-wheel drive vehicles, but that was only on 2 vehicles that I've ever owned in my life, and I've owned 13, 14, 15 cars, and only 2 of them had all-wheel drive. One was a true 4-wheel drive, the other one was a crossover, Murano, if you must know. A 2006 Murano, and it was a horrible piece of shit. It was the worst car I ever owned. The worst car I ever owned was a 2006 Nissan Murano. So I guess I'm doing pretty well if that's the worst car I've ever owned. And it was only 3 years old when I bought it. Anyway, this one's 2.5 years old. It is a lease return. If you're going to buy a used vehicle, you know, based on what I've researched and experienced, a lease return is probably the way to go. Because they're always returned with, or they're usually returned with relatively reasonable mileage, and they're maintained. They have to provide records to the leasing company that proves that the vehicle was maintained. And generally, if somebody's leasing a car, they're going to go to the dealer and have it done. And I have all the service records, so I know what was done and what needed to be done. I bought this vehicle. It was I got $5,000 off sticker price. We went back and forth a few times on that. I really did try to beat them up as much as I could, but I had, on one hand, I'm trying to get them down in the price of the one I'm buying, and on the other hand, I'm trying to get the most out of my trade-in. So we came up with a compromise that I think works. You know, they're going to take, when you're going to a dealer, I mean, you're really, unless you really know what you're doing, and I'll admit I don't, you're either going to overpay on the one you're buying, or they're going to underpay you on your trade-in. And when they start fudging around numbers, they're really robbing Peter to pay Paul. But I don't really have the time to go out and dick around with dealers. I find what I want and I buy it. And if the deal makes sense to me, I do it. The numbers worked out on paper, and I did not overpay for this. I actually priced out a few of them, and I think I did all right. So, that all aside, I finally got the vehicle that I wanted. I got rid of a vehicle that I used and needed and I appreciated, but now it's time to move up in the world. Mainly because, so the reason I didn't buy an SUV where I used to live is because I drove about 30,000 miles a year. Not quite that much, but it was pretty damn close to it. And yeah, 30,000 miles a year is what I would average on my worst years, but 22 to 25,000 miles is about what I was averaging, actually. And that means I was buying a lot of fuel, and I was putting a lot of wear and tear on my vehicles. So buying an SUV, new, used, or otherwise, was a losing proposition. You know, something that gets 20 to 22 miles per gallon gets expensive when you're driving that much. But this little beast averages about 20 to 22. Yeah, that's about right. And because I only work about 10 minutes from my job, that makes no sense. I live 10 minutes from my job. This vehicle finally makes sense to me. Anyway, so let's talk a little bit about it. This is the 2017 Santa Fe Sport, and whoever leased this new checked off every freaking box on the option list. I didn't go there looking for a loaded vehicle. I actually I did some research at first to see what they had on the floor. I checked some other dealers. I really like the dealer that I bought this from. They've treated me relatively well. I know they've been laughing behind my back when I'm not there, but that's okay. That's fine. As long as I'm happy, that's all that matters, right? So anyway, this thing is freaking massive in this tiny garage. Look at it. This garage was built in 1954 when cars were massive. So I am shocked that they made garages this small. But anyway. So this 2017 Santa Fe Sport, what is a Santa Fe Sport? It is essentially a Santa Fe that it's actually in the same size class as the original Santa Fe was. And then what happened is when the 3-row SUVs started becoming more popular, Hyundai decided to split the Santa Fe into two different submodels. The Santa Fe Sport, which is the original, the 2-row, and then the Santa Fe XL, which is a full-fledged Santa Fe. Or I'm sorry, it went from Santa Fe to Santa Fe XL. So the Santa Fe XL, I forget when they dropped the XL moniker, but the straight Santa Fe is a 3-row SUV. Same chassis, same interior, same design, same nose, same tail, only about 9 inches longer. And the Santa Fe only came with a V6 engine. The Santa Fe Sport came with either a 2.4 liter 4-cylinder or a 2.0 4-cylinder turbo GDI. So this one has the 2.4 liter GDI, non-turbo. Both engines are the Hyundai Theta or Theta engine, depending on how you mispronounce it. And before we go any further, I am well aware of the horrors that is or are the Theta 2 engine. The Theta 2 is an engine that Hyundai developed for, I think, the 2011 Sonata and Santa Fe Sport, as well as some Kias and a few other things. I believe it's also used in certain Tucsons, depending on trim level. And I'll show you what the engine looks like. And we're going to start there, and then we're going to work our way into the rather cool interior. Let's take a look under the hood. So, excuse me, this garage is a little hard to move around in when everything is everywhere. So yes, it has a gas strut hood, which is really cool. A lot of what makes this vehicle what it is actually comes from the Sonata. It's not based on the Sonata chassis as far as I know. I think it's actually a much beefed up version of, I think it's its own chassis, to be honest with you. And if anyone can refute me on that or confirm, I'd love to hear from you. But here it is. This is the 2.4 GDI motor. This is the Theta engine that everybody hates because they blow up. And you're thinking to yourself, why would you buy a vehicle with an engine that has a reputation for blowing up? Well, here's the deal. As far as I know, and from the research I've done, limited research be it may be, the 2.4 liter Theta GDI made after 2012 or 2013 or 14, one of those years, they finally got it right, and they've solved the problem. The problem being, during the manufacturing process, and I knew about this issue years ago. Hell, when I had the old Elantra sedan, I knew about this problem. What was happening was, during the manufacturing process in the Montgomery, Alabama plant, where the engine is made, yes, this is an American-made vehicle, by the way. The world isn't what your drunk uncle with the Chevy wants to think it is. It's different. It's not what it was. This didn't come off the slow boat from Korea. This was made right here in the good old USA. So the Theta engines were blowing up because of a process at the plant that did not completely deburr the crankshaft. Burrs are what occurs when you machine metal. The cranks are placed on a lathe and they're ground and all that. Well, the metal that comes off has to go somewhere, but the process they were using wasn't completely eliminating it. So what was happening was some of that metal was actually getting into the engine at the production level. And guess what happens when metal gets into oil galleys? It blocks them. It gets into the bearings and it grinds the bearings down, and the bearings get starved for oil and they're assaulted by metal shavings. It's a really bad time for your poor little engine. So what's happening here is these crankshafts are blowing bearings like crazy. That was one problem. But there were also problems with the bearings. It's all in the lower end of the engine. The bearings were actually failing prematurely because they weren't made correctly or they were made from the wrong materials. I still don't know what the deal is exactly with that. But as far as I'm led to believe, from the research that I've done, and I've looked at the engine failure data for every model year of at least the Santa Fe's, I found that the failure rate drops off after 2014 to almost, well, there's going to be a few failures here and there. That's going to happen, whether it's a Toyota, whether it's a Hyundai, whether it's a Honda. And they're going to have problems with engines. It doesn't matter who makes it. There's going to be a few failures. It's when you start having a pattern failure and it's happening repeatedly over the span of, a couple hundred or thousand vehicles or a million vehicles, that's when you have a problem. Now, Hyundai has admitted, although it took a lawsuit and a whistleblower, they have acknowledged that there is a problem with these engines. But there aren't a lot of known issues with this model year. The 2017s, the 16s, and the 15s seem to be holding up pretty damn well as far as I can tell. And they are actually graciously extending the warranty of these engines to 120,000 miles. 10 years, 120. So I look at that as, well, I tell you what I'm going to do. And I knew about this problem when I looked at the vehicle. I knew this was an issue. I was well aware. But I also knew about the warranty extension. And I look at it this way. If my engine blows up at 60,000 miles and I get a brand new engine out of the deal, chances are that engine's going to have whatever the defect was worked out by that point. And secondly, I'm not going to keep it that long. I'm probably going to keep this vehicle up to 120,000 at the most. It depends. I mean, I'm not the kind of person who keeps vehicles around for a long time. It's just in my nature. My dad's that way, and I'm that way. I don't keep vehicles long any longer than I have to. It's just a thing. I like to drive different things, and it's like, people who buy motorcycles and they can never have just one, or they have they buy a new one every year, or they buy and sell houses like crazy. My thing is vehicles. I just can't keep them around. Not that I wear them out or break them. I just get bored with them. But this sucker has more bells, whistles, and toys than I can even shake a stick at. So I'll never get bored with this one. Of course, I'm going to say that, and then I'll probably trade it in 3 years down the road. But hey, we'll see what happens. So condition-wise, so of all the vehicles that I looked at, this one was in probably the best condition. This was, like I said, a lease return. It did have a solid maintenance history. There are two things that I had to have done, though. Right off the bat, within the first week of ownership, I had the GDI service done as a precaution. I have no records of that ever being done, and it's supposed to be done every 15 to 20,000 miles. And if you want to read more about the GDI service, whether it works or not, whether it's snake oil or whether it actually does anything, you can do that on your own time. But I will say that I've had the GDI, or induction cleaning service done on my GT on a regular basis, and I never had a problem with the engine in the 106,000 miles I owned it. So I look at that as, okay, I'm going to have it done, and if it breaks down, well, we'll worry about that. GDI service, and I did a brake fluid flush. That had never been done. And it's supposed to be done every 2 years, 30,000 miles, and it was not done. This vehicle had 30,000 miles on it when I picked it up, and it now has 30,004 something. So I put a few hundred miles on it, so I have a little bit of knowledge as to how it handles, and I think I'm pretty confident in my decision to buy it. I have no buyer's remorse at this point. But anyway. So this engine is mated to Hyundai's own 6-speed automatic. I actually developed a real love for the Hyundai 6-speed automatics with the Elantra GT because it was a buttery smooth transmission. It was a buttery smooth transition from... Did I say it again? You know what I'm saying. From the day I picked it up off the lot to the day I brought it back and never returned. It was just a bulletproof little transmission. And I didn't beat on the car, but I wasn't easy on it either. The transmission in this vehicle is a little bit bigger than what was in the Elantra. It's not only is it bigger, but it also, I believe, has an internal transfer case for the all-wheel drive system. One of the first things I did was I popped the hood on this, and I'm looking over the engine to see what it looks like, whether it's clean, dirty, or disgusting. And I found that it was very clean. I did wash it once already, but it looks like it hasn't seen a lot of highway driving. You can tell a highway vehicle right off, because in New England, especially New England, we use liquid salt on our highways. And if you have a vehicle that you drive regularly on our highways and you don't wash the engine once every couple of weeks, all the cast metal components under the hood develop a really nasty layer of corrosion. And this one is just starting, but I've caught it at a point where it shouldn't get any worse. Believe it or not, my 2014 Elantra GT looked cleaner than this when I traded it in. And that's because of my regular washing cycle. I wash the engine on a regular basis. So this is going to look nice when it up into its older age. So I'm really happy that it's not beat up badly. It doesn't have any warranty or recall history. So I looked into that too. Had a clean Carfax, no accidents, and I don't put much worth in the Carfax documents when it comes to accidents because I usually find accident damage on my vehicles if I buy them used. Every vehicle I've ever bought has had accident damage, repair done to it that was not documented, and I figured it out on my own just by looking at the alignment of panels and painted surfaces. This thing, it looks beautiful. I don't see any evidence of any collisions. Anyway, so yeah, it's a very easy to service engine in this engine bay. It's all, you can get all the way to the back, but look at how clean this thing is. I mean, it definitely wasn't beat up, that's for sure. And I did actually manage to track down who the original owner was, and it turns out it was, the original lessee. It was leased by a 65-year-old woman who owned a pool business, and she was one of the office workers. And so this vehicle had a very easy life. It's low miles for a 2017. So the interior of this thing, I really fell in love with at first sight, honestly. I have a soft spot for beige leather. I don't know why, I just do. It is a little higher maintenance because you have to really clean it well, and you have to clean it with the right stuff. But when it's clean, it's beautiful. Black interior, I don't like black interior. I never did. And I'm just not really into that. But this is a light beige. It has almost every surface on the interior. This is actually padded. It's padded where it counts. So the door panels and the insets are padded. This looks like hard plastic, but it is actually a padded vinyl. Same with the armrests. These are nice, soft, padded armrests. This is a fairly outdated design for Hyundai. This is the Storm Edge design, which I think debuted sometime in 2000. I think 2013 or 12 was the first year for this design language. And it actually kind of complemented or followed the, was it Liquid Motion? It was the Fluid Motion design language that came out in the 2011 Elantra and Sonata, or the later Sonata. But this is, you know, a lot of squared off and hard edges. That was the look that they were going for. I think it works nicely on this vehicle. I don't hate it, I'll tell you that. On the Santa Fe Sport, they went with this style accent panel on either side of the dashboard. And I believe on the Santa Fe, they went with a wood grain. They actually, I've seen 2 or 3 different versions of this. There's the wood grain, there's this, and then there's something, I think they did like a burl walnut at one point. But it really complements this interior, which is basically a mixture of, you've got chocolate brown, a lot of chocolate brown vinyl and plastics around here, with the light cream or light beige leather and vinyl. It really works. I love it. It looks classy to me. It's a little busy though. I will say that the design of this interior is a little bit much, and I read another review that basically stated the same. Like it's a little bit over the top. In later model years, in later redesigns, they've actually simplified it a little bit, which looks really nice. So what we have here is about an 8-inch touchscreen display. It's either 8 or 9 inches, I'm not sure exactly. CarPlay and Android Auto built in. I have CarPlay turned on. I have an iPhone, so that's why. It controls the climate system as well as the entertainment and navigation. It does have built-in navigation, and it's upgraded through the use of an SD card. This one has an updated map that's less than a year old in it right now, but that's how you do it. You just pop in an SD card. You can actually download the updated map from the website that supports it for Hyundai. I'm not sure what that site is offhand, but you can, for $100, you can get new maps for it. Or you can just use Google Maps with your phone and just do it that way. But if you use the built-in navigation, the color display on the instrument cluster gives you the turn-by-turn directions, which is very nice to have. So we're going to work our way up from the top, work our way down. So as far as options goes, this one does have the panoramic sunroof, which is a nice option to have. I've always wanted a vehicle with a sunroof. I don't know why, but it's something I've always wanted, and now I have it. And it has a retractable sunshade. It's all automatic. But again, you know, more stuff to break. And I don't want to know what this is going to cost to fix when it does break. And it's just a matter of when, really. I leave the sunshade open because I like to be able to stare at the sun when I'm sitting in traffic. Not really, but hey, it sounded nice. So it's got that. It's got the HomeLink rear view mirror. It's an automatic electrochromatic mirror, so it responds to light. I wonder if I can demonstrate that on camera. Let's see if I can use my flashlight on my phone to get the sensor. Where is the sensor on this thing? Not really sure. Oh, it's right there on the top. Oops. So if I hold my light up to it, it darkens. The light away, it lightens up. Those have been in vehicles for at least 20 to 25 years. I mean, that's nothing new. But they're still not standard equipment on most vehicles, and I'm really not sure why. It almost makes perfect sense to have it, and it can't possibly cost that much to build it, but it's got it, so hey, yay. And the HomeLink device actually works with my garage door opener, so it's all programmed to open my garage door. Not that I park it in here, but this is actually the first and only time this car has been in this garage. I just wanted to do it for the video so I can not look like an asshole in my driveway talking to a camera. So the automatic climate control system is also in this vehicle, so it'll completely rock your world for you by just by setting the temperature to what you want. And drivers and passenger side are independently controlled or can be linked with the sync button. So let's talk about some other stuff. So it has one feature that the dealer didn't know about, and that is an aftermarket remote starter. It has one that was made by Directed Electronics. It is does it say on here? It says it on the remote. It is an Automate remote car starter, and it works. I have one remote. I'm missing the other one, but I will actually make it a point to get one of those missing remotes, and so I have two. It has the heated and cooled leather interior with 8-way power driver's seat, and I think it's a 4 or 6-way power passenger seat. I've never owned a vehicle that had a powered passenger seat before, but it's always a first. And yes, cooled interior, or cooled seats in the front. The rear seats are simply heated, and we'll take a look at those in a minute. But they're very comfortable. I actually want to go on a road trip in this car because it is so comfortable. But let's take a look at this power seat control, because it does things that I didn't know you could have. So what we have here is the lumbar control. This is lumbar forward and back, and this one moves the lumbar up and down, which is, I've never had that before. Now, of course, it has the preset driver's seat position selection. You can set it for up to 2 different drivers, which also controls the mirror position. So if I'm like my girlfriend, if she drives it, she'll have her own settings for mirror and seat position, and then I just go in and I hit number 1. There's one feature this car has, which I turned off, but I'll turn it on for you. It's one of those, it's really cool to have. I mean, it is really cool to have. I think it's under the convenience menu here. I turned it off to reduce wear and tear on the seat mechanism, but I'll show you what it does. It's easy seat access. And what it does is if I open the door... Actually, no, I think I have to shut the car off to do this. Yeah, if I set it to normal, go back. Let's see here. Did it stick? Yeah. So if I go back. I shut the car off. What it does is it moves the seat back for me to make it easier to get in and out of the vehicle. And then once I close the door and turn the car back on again, it moves it back. I did touch a little bit on so it does have the navigation, and the audio system is a 12-speaker Infinity audio system. Hyundai uses Infinity extensively in their upper-end vehicles, or their top-tier lower-end. I think the Elantra has an Infinity option as well, one of the high trim-level Elantras. So we've got 12 speakers. There's 2 tweeters, 2 mid-range, that's 4. And then in the back, I can't get this door open. There's 2 in the door, that's 6. We've got, there's more speakers in this thing actually, there's quite a few more. There's a subwoofer in the D pillar here. There are 2 tweeters, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I don't know where the others are. I think maybe is it 12 or is it 10? It's crazy though. There's more speakers than you really need. But all that means you have a really, really nice sounding audio system. It's not, anything that's going to, it's worth writing home about, but well, for me it is. So yeah, I'll write home about it. It's decent. So, I forgot about the center channel. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I think there's some tweeters stuffed somewhere else, and I'm just not remembering where they are. That's got to be it. But anyway, it's a really bitchin' stereo. Now, the driving convenience stuff that this machine has isn't anything crazy. It does have, oh yeah, I forgot to mention, it does have a heated steering wheel. Now, that was something that the salesman was not aware of. I found it by accident. I'm like, hey, what's this smoking steering wheel thing for? Turns out it's a heated steering wheel. So that's really cool. I like that. Blind spot assistance. I think more and more lower end cars are getting this now because it's definitely something that will become mandatory. Okay, so it has this hill downhill, yeah, hill descent assist. When you turn that on and you release the accelerator on an incline or a decline, it automatically applies the brakes. But one feature it has that I didn't know about until actually today. I was actually climbing a hill. There was a stop sign at the end of the hill, and I let off on the gas. I hit the brake, and then I was getting ready to accelerate. I lifted my foot off the brake, expecting the car to roll back, and guess what? It didn't. It actually had applied the brakes. It actually held the brakes down for me while I took the time to hit the accelerator, and then it immediately released the brakes, which is really cool. I've never had a car that did that before. So let's talk about the rear view camera real quick. Now, every car now has a rear view camera by law. In fact, it's kind of funny because automakers are putting, like on their super strippy models, like the Hyundai Accent base models and whatnot, they're actually putting in the smallest screens they can find that are legal for whatever requirements might be there for the rear view camera. But every car has a rear view camera now. You can't buy one without it. But this one, rear view camera is not good enough. It has to have something a little bit better than that. This one has the 360 degree top down camera option, and it is really nice. I've actually used it to guide myself into a parking space, of course looking around with the mirrors as well, but you can really see everything. You can see if you're centered in the space correctly. It's amazing. This is actually shown because of, all right, so I have the, let me close this door. There we go, that looks better. So the cameras, there isn't a camera hovering above the car. In fact, somebody I showed this to said, is there like a drone that follows you? No, this isn't actually a picture of this car. It's just a generic picture of a Santa Fe. You'll notice that it doesn't have a sunroof. But what it is a computer generated, it's generated from 4 cameras that are around the vehicle's perimeter. They're actually fisheye lens cameras, and they're electronically or digitally manipulated to look as they do. But there's a camera in front, a camera in back, and the 2 cameras are below the mirrors. They're below the mirrors, and that's what we're seeing. We're seeing everything around me, including the garage door, the tools, the rake handles, it's all there, and the generator that's in front of me. And you can see there's a better view of it. You can even change the view, the default view, to just the front or side or what have you. So it's really well thought out. The automatic climate's kicking in because it's starting to get hot in here from my breath. The sensor, by the way, is right there. And here we are in the back of the Santa Fe. We want to see what kind of features and amenities your passengers may have at their disposal. And it really isn't, we're not talking, you know, Hyundai Genesis class level, you know, excitement or anything like that. But it is pretty well equipped and it's very comfortable. I am very comfortable in this seat. I'm not a very tall guy, but I do have plenty of leg room. The seats are not, I mean, they're in their standard position, I think, for your average front passenger, but they can be moved forward. But anyway, so let's take it from the top. So we've got, of course, you have rear reading lights. They can be turned on independently. You've got your rear vents there. You can turn them on or off. They swivel and tilt and do all those happy fancy things. You've got a rear seat pocket for your books and iPads and crap. You've got an auxiliary power jack to charge your ebooks and iPads and other crap. You've got a folding armrest. It can be folded up or down. And it has a slide-out cup holder, which a feature I haven't seen in any modern car. I didn't realize this was still a thing. But this is a pretty rugged piece of equipment, pretty well put together. I actually quite like it. It's very comfortable. But if you are on a long trip and you don't have the rear cargo space full of junk, you can pull this lever here and slide or recline the seat back quite a bit. My lord, that is so comfortable. I could fall asleep here right now. No, really, I'm very comfortable. But it doesn't end there. It doesn't end there, because the seats also move forward and back. So if I have like, you know, some small kids and a crap load of stuff to put in the trunk area, I can slide the seats forward quite a bit, or all the way back. So I mean, it's pretty flexible use of space. I'm actually very pleased with that. But there's more. So with this trim level, which is, it has the useless equipment package number 12 installed. You've also got a 2-position rear, heated rear seat option. So your rear seats are also heated, which is, man, that's just a level of luxury that I can't even fathom. But it doesn't end there, because you also get, now this is a really neat option. You have sun visors. You have window shades for the rear passengers on both sides. Window shades, my friends, built in. I mean, I'm just blown away by the amount of equipment that this thing is loaded with. So I apologize if I sound crazy. But I mean, for what I paid for this thing, which is about the price of a brand new Versa. No, really. For what I paid for this car, it's about the price for a base model Sentra. And it's only 2 years old. And, you know, the amount of people that are going to go for the new Sentra, or the Hyundai Accent, or actually a really well-equipped Hyundai Accent could be had for what I paid for this. But you get so much more vehicle for the money when you go used. It's crazy. And I've been buying new cars, brand new cars, for quite a while. And it's like, and then I realized, why am I doing this? Just get a really nice used car, and you can get a lot more for your money. And this is really what I'm talking about. But rear floor. Oh yeah, one more thing I want to mention: the carpeting. This is a better grade carpeting than you'll find in the Elantra. In their sedans. I think the Sonata might have this, but what I'm finding is a lot of newer cars have a it's a non-woven material, and it doesn't really have carpet fibers that stick up like this. They're more matted and they're harder to clean, and they have a very, very plasticky feel. This is a nicer material. I like this. This is like luxury carpeting for a modern car, because even higher end vehicles are starting to include this. It's like a compressed felt like substance. It's a non-woven material, that's all I know, but this is a better version of that. It actually has texture to it, and it looks like you can clean it pretty easily. Let's try it now. Wow, that was close. Oh, actually it survived. I didn't scratch it. Okay, so here we go. This is the massive cargo hold, which is why I went with this over the Tucson, because I think with the seats down, you have 71 cubic feet of cargo space. which is really nice. It's good and wide, and I think if I took I could put a 4x8 sheet of plywood cut in half back here, which is something I actually need to do. So that works out. Anyway, so it has a nice cargo light. You've got an outlet outlet right there. I think the Santa Fe has a 115 volt outlet in the back. This one does not. The Santa Fe Sport does not have that option. There's your subwoofer. There's your 2 tweeters. No, those aren't tweeters. Those are just regular old satellite speakers. You've got your storage for the cargo cover. This pops out and goes over there. And there's your cargo cover, so you can store it here when you're not using it. And then you've got your little storage cubby hole here, first aid kit. Actually took that from my old car. Never used it. So I'm like, I'm not letting that go. No way. You've also got some storage over here. Actually quite a bit of storage. So which is quite handy. You've got little tie down hooks. I don't know how much I would put on those because they're plastic. But you've got these little tie down hooks here. And then this is for the optional cargo net. Yeah, that was back out of the driveway. Got to put the Miata back. Let's see if we can navigate. It says I'm going to hit the garage door, but I'm not. It's just really damn close. I won't be parking this in here. If anything, let's say I get rid of the Miata, which I'm not doing, but if I did, I would let my girlfriend park her CX-5 here. It's a little smaller all around. You know what? I'm not even so sure I'd want her to park that in here because I just don't want to run the risk of her hitting something. Look at that mirror. It is just clearing. Man. This car is massive. Either that or the garage is just a standard 8-foot wide garage, but yeah, you can see as I'm pulling out of the driveway, I can see where I'm going. I can see behind me and all around. This is really helpful if you've got kids or you've got, you know, neighborhood kids and they're just heathens and they're running around fancy free and, you know, wreck your stuff, right? Automatically turns off as soon as you go above about 5 miles an hour. The camera shuts off. But we got to put the Miata back in the garage. I'll do that real quick. I'm going to throw those things away. So here's the interior during the daytime, and it's actually, it looks nice. I like the brown, chocolate brown. I like the beige. it just hits me in all the right places. So I bought this as a certified pre-owned vehicle, and what that means, we're going to cut through the bullshit and just talk about what it really means. They did not do a 3,000 point or whatever number inspection that they claim. That was never done. They never do that. It's just there for advertising purposes and nothing else. But what it does have is the balance of the factory 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty. Now with Hyundai, when you resell a Hyundai or when it changes hands from its original owner, it loses the 10-year, 100,000-mile powertrain warranty and the 5-year, 60,000 bumper-to-bumper warranty, which is one of Hyundai's biggest selling points and advantages, and really is how they were able to rebuild their consumer confidence. What you instead get is the basic industry standard 3-year, 36,000-mile bumper-to-bumper warranty and the 5-year, 60,000-mile powertrain warranty. Because I bought this as certified pre-owned by Hyundai, I get the balanced 10-year, 100,000 warranty on the drivetrain, which is all I really care about. And the 5-year, 60,000 bumper-to-bumper warranty, which is a very important feature to have when you've got all of these useless gadgets. So, CPO Hyundai kind of makes sense, but for the most part, CPO is just hogwash, and you only get CPO vehicles from the manufacturer when you buy them from a selling dealer, or an authorized manufacturer dealer. I noticed that some used car lots are offering CPO cars. They want to get in on the action too, and these are like used car dealers. Their certification program doesn't mean anything at all. Always do your own due diligence. Always inspect any car you buy, new or used, and don't rely on the selling dealer to do their due diligence. Now this car, it came from the dealer when I bought it. And I don't know if this is a CPO thing or if they normally do this, but this car was almost completely fully serviced when I bought it. And while we're here, let's talk a little bit about the seat coolers. So, like I said, it has heated and cooled front seats. And how that works is when you turn this on, let's turn the ignition on, turn that off. Okay, so what you do is you press this button here, and you'll hear a fan spinning. Let's take a look at what that is and how it works. So what it's designed to do is to take the air-conditioned air from the floor, because cold air sinks. It takes that air-conditioned air, and it sucks it up into this little fan here, right there. Now, if you've ever opened up an iMac or a modern computer, you might recognize that fan. It's very similar in design. But what it is, it's a small blower, and it sucks the air from the floor, and it blows it through channels in the rear, in the seat cushion. And that is how it cools the seat. It works really well. Surprisingly well. And that's all it is. And you've got one on both sides, so that's pretty nice. Turn that off. Oh yeah, one more thing. There's always one more thing. So today I was backing out of a space, and I noticed that I knew there was a vehicle behind me, and I could see it in my mirrors. But the rear cross traffic alert system was telling me, hey, dumbass, stop. And I noticed that as the vehicle passed me, the sound went from one speaker to the other. So it's actually in stereo. So if you hear the sound on the driver's side, it's behind you on the driver's side. But as that vehicle passes, the sound gradually migrates to the other side of the car. So not only is it cross-traffic monitoring, but it's also in stereo. The little things that automakers think of when they design these features as they improve them along the way, it just blows my mind, because these are things that I wouldn't have thought of. But that's why they get paid the big bucks to engineer these features. And it's just incredible how far we've come. This is not an expensive car. This is a well-equipped, moderately priced, mid-sized SUV. That's what it is. Or a crossover. You can call it a crossover, I think. But and that's really all it is. And it's so loaded with safety features and convenience features. It's just mind-blowing. And everything works pretty well. I've had this car for 450 miles, and I gotta say, I'm very pleased with the way everything works. and how fine-tuned these features really are. So we're going to continue on the video, and we're going to see where that goes.